Sierra Leone is last of 10, facing a lot of traffic to deal with onto the far turn. Boot to Cachet has made the top clear, leads at a length. Against the rail, Diddy a second by a head. Caitlin, her greatness, the leader. Caitlin, her greatness, leads at a length and a half as they go to the far turn, oversubscribed. His second a half length. She feels pretty, third to the inside, pounces a wide fourth to the turn. War Campaign draws within a half length of the lead. Now matching strides, Kings Barnes moves up behind him on the outside. Epic Ride swings wide, just a touch between horses. Doorknock has to shift lanes along with Sierra Leone. Boot to Cachet still has the lead. Didia, English Rose toward the inside. She feels pretty, has the lead in the final furlong. Kings Barnes in front. Final furlong of the Ben Ally Stakes. Boot to Cachet, 25-1 upset under Frankie Dettori. Sierra Leone comes forward for the lead in deep stretch and wins the Toyota Bluegrass. She feels pretty, a dominating performance.
I want to know which one of you is buying tonight because there were some major payoffs today at Keeneland. Hopefully you had them, but if you didn't, rest assured, we're going to go after it again tomorrow. Welcome in, everybody, to the Keeneland Look Ahead podcast. I'm Jeremy Plonk from Horse Player Now and Keeneland.com. Major pick six carryover. There were some big payoffs in races like the pick five today. We saw another huge return, $55,000 for the late pick five, but the pick six was not solved for the second straight day. And that leaves us on Friday with a carryover of $211,733. You can be sure they're going to bet probably a 5 times multiplier into that pick six, probably $1 million in new money. I would anticipate we'll be playing for $1.2 million in the pick six on Friday. $1 minimum wager for the pick six. It'll be races 5 through 10. We'll set up the entire card, all the exotic wagers, and the strategies within those races over the next 40 minutes or so. Today at Keeneland, it was crazy again. We saw another big payoff, a third $50 horse or third 45-1 plus horse in the last couple days. John Ortiz popped one today, over $111 mutual. Third horse in the last 2 days that has been 45-1 or more at Keeneland. Since they got rid of the poly track way back when in 2014, we've only had 20 winners at Keeneland on any surface that went off at 45-1 or more. We've had 3 of those 20 in the last 24 hours at Keeneland. It has been crazy. You want to know why? Sometimes you can't explain things, but part of the explanation I do think is the weather and the situation with the track, because it took an amazing amount of rain over the past several weeks. This morning took more rain, started muddy, ended up good, and then fast by the end of the day. Drying out racetracks, they say, they're funky when you're handicapping. They're tough for the horses. They're demanding. Some handle it, some don't. Stamina issues come into play. Speed was obviously good today, and horses went out to the lead and carried it. But they were the horses who were dominant today, and they had the stamina to hold it. It's not an easy track to get over. And so as we get a little bit farther away from all this rain, I hate to say it, the forecast overnight, there's a 50% chance for rain about 4 a.m. So you might wake up and see a wet ground in Lexington again, similar to what we had today. Hopefully not, but again, a 50% chance of rain. Cloudy, 48 degrees tomorrow. I think we'd have a fast track if we don't get any more rain overnight, and that would be a good thing. We just need this track to keep drying out. Remember, when we first got all that rain, it was packed down, right? And, the track was sealed, as they say. So it was sloppy sealed. It was packed down hard. Horses were getting over it, and speed was doing well. And the form held a little bit better. As we've opened it up and heralded the racetrack, it's gotten a little quirky and funky. This happens everywhere. A drying out racetrack, back when we had the night school program and we were teaching fan education lessons, we'd always kind of, come up with these different things about like, what are long shot days? What do long shot days look like? Drying out racetracks are a big, big instigator for those kind of things. And that's really what we've had over the last 2 days at Keeneland. I mean, you think about it, a $34,000 pick five yesterday, a $57,000 pick five yesterday, and a $55,000 pick five today. 3 of the last 4 pick fives at Keeneland have paid $37,000 plus on a 50-cent wager. It's just going crazy. Today, the super high five was hit. They had to carry over going into the last race. Super High Five was hit today for $95,000. So, I mean, it has been some just crazy payoffs. We mentioned John Ortiz, the trainer, with 2 wins today. He's never had more than 3 wins in a Keeneland meet. He had 2 of them today, and both horses essentially were coming off about a 1-year layoff. So just, hard to predict and hard to project. His second one of those 2, though, was bet down to co-favoritism. Flavian Pratt had 2 wins on the program. No Luis Saez today for the second straight day. We hope to have Luis back perhaps on Friday. We'll probably get some sort of update from either he or from his agent, Kira McLaughlin, sometime on social media, hopefully tomorrow morning before the changes come out. But hopefully we'll get Luis Saez back, but that's just optimistic thinking. I don't have any inside information on that. As we mentioned, the carryover 211,000 plus, 48 degrees the forecast for tomorrow for a high. So it'll be a chilly day. Bundle up if you're going out to the track. The horses are going to love it, though. As for some news on the racetrack, or off the racetrack, but in the horse category, Owen Almighty, who was one of the favorites towards the Bluegrass Stakes last Tuesday now, he is off the Kentucky Derby trail and onto the Pat Day Mile trail. His connections announced today that they will not pursue the Kentucky Derby, even though he ran poorly in the final 16th of a mile in the Bluegrass Stakes. It was a distance experiment for him to stretch out to a mile and an eighth. I thought he would do better than he did. He didn't, and the connections are smartly now pulling the plug and not trying to go longer in the Kentucky Derby. They'll cut him back to the Pat Day Mile if all things go well there, knock on wood, to run on Derby weekend. So a little bit of news there. Let's take a look at this Friday card now as we get set for the snapshot of the program. We've got 10 races for you on Friday. First post at 10 o'clock. Co-features the Grade 1 Maker's Mark Mile and the listed Limestone Stakes. 2 of them on the turf, and they are part of the Keeneland Turf Pick 3, races 7 and 9. That Keeneland Turf Pick 3 will kick off in race number 5. Race 5 is going to be an important one. Starts the Keeneland Turf Pick 3. It's one of my key plays on the card. And that's where the $211,000 carryover pick 6 will get underway, races 5 through 10 on the program. We'll start things off as we usually do with the pick 5 in race number 1. We've got the early pick 4 in the second. That 5th race again is going to wrap up the early pick 5 and the early pick 4, and then start the Keeneland Turf Pick 3, start the pick 6. So try to get yourself a good opinion in race number 5, because that's going to be an important one to a lot of the wagers. Late pick 5 will start in race number 6. 7th race is the Limestone Stakes, turf sprinters in that one, 3-year-olds. Pick 4 is going to start in there, as well as the second leg of the Keeneland Turf Pick 3. One of my key plays there in the Limestone, also following up in the 8th with a key play. So you can see 3 of my key plays all later in the card, so that's a good sign if we're trying to take down some of these big multi-race wagers at the end of the day. Featured Maker's Mark Mile goes as the 9th and wraps up the Keeneland Turf Pick 3, and no carryover in the Toyota Super High 5. As we mentioned, that was taken down today. The sweet tune of $95,000 if you had the Super High 5 today. Congrats if you did, and you are buying for sure if that's the case. All right, let's get to handicapping here. First race on the card for Friday is a $10,000 starter allowance in here. This is a race where I think there's no easy tosses in here in a field of 6, and there's a hot pace. If you can find the right finisher, I think you might be okay. Speed was very good on the main track today, especially going 2 turns. Some of the 1-turn races have hotter paces and have been able to find some horses with a lick from off the pace, but the 2-turn races have been absolutely dominated by speed so far in the past few days. As for the handicappers and the Keeneland.com and the handicapper selectors box, here's how we shake out the opening race on the Friday card. Race number 1's got Twirling Roses on top for Scott. Dancing with Angels is the top choice for Tom and I. Lucky Shot, the top pick for Gabby, and then Kim's going to bookend Scott's top pick there with Twirling Roses. So 2 3s, a 1, and a 5, 3 different horses on top in this 6-horse field. Again, I think the pace goes really hot in here. The 1 Twirling Roses fast. The 2 King of Kentucky knows only one way. I mean, this horse has nothing but 1s in the past performances out of the gate. You've got a lot of speed to the outside with Lucky Shot, and Busk is coming off a couple front-running wins as well. Dancing with Angels has won wire-to-wire last time out, and the previous time went to the front, but that was at Delta Downs, and at Delta Downs, it's a small 6-furlong bull ring racetrack, as they call them, so 6.5 furlong is actually a 2-turn race. So what I'm thinking is this horse made the lead in a 2-turn race, probably won't be as fast as the 1-turn sprinters in here, and that's why I think number 3, Dancing with Angels, could be fast enough to win this race at 6 furlongs, but not necessarily up to the front of the pack, and can stalk and finish. Comes in from Louisiana, and I think some of that Delta Downs and the past performances might kind of make some people kind of, curl their nose up and be a little snobbish to the class level of this horse. But trainer Brett Brinkman's brought some good ones from Louisiana to Keeneland over the years. You think about Alva Star, Old Homestead. These are horses who came to Keeneland and won stakes races for Brent Brinkman. So he's not bringing horses here to get beat or just for posterity. He's a 23% trainer over the past year. He gets Ben Curtis to ride, who's off to a pretty good start at the meet. So Dancing with the Angels, top pick for me in here. Hopefully he can kind of sit and pounce, because I think that's the kind of trip it's going to take. It'll be difficult to win this race on the front end. Race number 1, give me the 3, the 5, the 1, and the 6. I think the 5's another one in here who can sit and close a bit. A good second in a similar race, 10,000 starter back in the fall meet here. Second beat and a half that day, 27-1. You're not going to get 27-1 on the 5 lucky shot in this spot. But 3, 5, 1, and 6, the way I'm going to line them up in race number 1. That's going to start off the early pick 5. Do I feel confident enough to single in that particular spot? No, but maybe a 2 deep situation, maybe 3 deep, 3, 5, and 1. The 1 is the speed horse I trust the most on the front end. 3 and 5 are both closers. As I mentioned last night, I don't like to go too deep on a ticket with horses that I think I have the same kind of running style. So 3, 5, and 1 for me probably to get through the opening leg here in the pick 5. Let's go to the pick 4 starter in race number 2. This is a 2-year-old baby dash, as we like to call him, maiden special weight, 4.5 furlongs for the juveniles. This is Wesley Ward territory. Ward won today. It was a rarity today for Wesley Ward in the 2-year-old race, where he won not with his favorite. He had 2 entered in the race, but he won with a horse who ended up paying, I believe, $11 at 9-2. It's not often that we see the other Ward. A lot of times you'll see somebody call it the other horse, like an other Baffert or another Ward. The second horse entered in a race who's the longer price and not necessarily the more fancied entry. That happened today, but it's rare that it happens. We've only seen 5 times over the years where Wesley Ward has won one of these 2-year-old races with the longer price of his 2 horses entered. One of those was today. Ward's won 49 of these races now. He's won 2 out of 3 this meet. He won 6 out of 9 last meet. And only 5 of those were with the longer price horse. So he's got 2 in again. The 1, Satisfied Mind. The 7, Garano Ranch. I'm not 100% sure which one of these is going to get bet to favoritism. I think they're sort of similar in running lines. You got Joel Rosario on the 1, Satisfied Mind. You got Johnny V on the 7, Garano Ranch. Both hit at a very high percentage. With the 2-year-olds in Ward, I think it's 47% Ward and Rosario teaming up here at Keeneland with the 2-year-olds. They got beat today, but 47% overall. With John Velasquez, they hit 57% with the 2-year-olds when Ward and Velasquez team up. I'm not quite sure which one's the better one. I didn't get a chance. I tried to find some workout videos for these horses from the Kentucky HBPA and Bruno with the Works. I couldn't find anything with Garano Ranch, but I did find the work with Satisfied Mind, and it was the March 23rd work was the one I was able to see the gate work. This horse broke like a rocket out of the starting gate. So I expect to see a lot of speed out of number 1, Satisfied Mind. That's the reason I went with the horse on top, because I did get to see the work. No, I did not get to see the work for the 7, Garano Ranch. Maybe he's even faster. We're going to find out. She's even faster. She's a daughter of War of Will and Satisfied Mind. The other filly is by First Samurai. So certainly plenty of pedigree there for both of those runners. I went with Satisfied Mind because I think we're going to get speed from the inside. We'll see. Maybe Rosario makes amends for being beaten today on the Ward trainee. So you've got the 2 Wesley Wards. I think you got to use both of them in this particular spot. I wouldn't dive into anybody else with any real excitement in here. Number 2, Celestial Harmony's one, though, I think you might want to consider in your multi or in your exotics if you want to try to split the 2 Wards that they don't run 1-2. Celestial Harmony is by Tappert, a sire who has an outstanding record with his offspring here at Keeneland. You wouldn't think it, but from 14 starters at Keeneland, Tappert has 5 wins, a second, and a third. An outstanding record. So maybe Celestial Harmony will come here and be a horse for course. Doesn't have a work over the track. You know I love and prefer, for certainly on the win end, a horse to have a race over the track here. So, but if you are going to throw one of the other ones in there, potentially, if you're going to play this from an intra-race standpoint, number 2, Celestial Harmony would be the one I would throw in. But my strategy in these 2-year-old baby races, I can't remember the last intra-race bet I made on one of these. I avoid them. I use them strictly to get through the multi-race wagers. Often they're the first race on the card. This time it's the second race on the card. You're going to need it to play the pick 4 or the pick 5. So for me, I would use both Wards in this particular spot and not try to split hairs. If you had to single one of the 2, you won't get a chance to see the tote board in the pick 5, but you will get to see the daily doubles. So in race number 1, if you want to figure out which one of the Ward horses is going to be favored in race number 2, you can go by the morning line, but that's a guesstimation. Look at the daily double probables in race 1 to race number 2. So when the first race is up and they start showing the daily double probables, 1 with whatever, 2 with whatever, see what the lower daily doubles are. Is it number 1, Satisfied Mind, or is it number 7, Garano Ranch? That's real money in there. That's not the estimation of the morning line maker. So it's really far truer than the morning line would be, and more accurate. So that will give you a sense if you want to play the pick 5 and just single one of these horses. Maybe one of those doubles is going to be much lower than the others, and then you're going to get a sense of where the public's going to go. Again, in the 49 times that Wesley Ward has won these 2-year-old races, only 5 of them have been the longer price of the 2. So the money is usually on the right one in these races. It wasn't today, but I certainly wouldn't consider that some kind of trend that we're starting to see the other Wards pop in there. So a little bit to try to anticipate how they might bet it. As for the pick 4, now that'll start in race number 2. So if you're playing the early pick 4, that's races 2 through 5, you'll get all the chance in the world to see the wagering leading up to that race, and you'll know for sure which one of the Ward horses is more fancied by the betting public, and the betting public has been dialed in properly more times than not when it comes to those. Let's go now to race number 3 on the program for the card on Friday. Race number 3 has no new wagers kicking off in this spot, but I was tempted. I almost pulled the trigger in here on a play of the day, but I like a couple later in the card a little bit more. But number 3, Business Model in this third race. It's a horse I've chased a couple times already. If you've watched all these podcasts, what is this, day 6 that we're going after here on day 6 here on the Friday card. This horse, Business Model, has been entered, I think, twice already, and I know I liked him at least once, if not both times, that we saw him in the entry box. It's David Jacobson, Irad Ortiz. Again, they teamed to win 3 of their 4 last year, as we've mentioned throughout the week. This horse, Business Model, was an allowance winner here at Keeneland at 1.16 back in 2022. So it doesn't show up in the past performances, but there's good form over the Keeneland track here, back a ways. You see Oaklawn, Churchill, Laurel, Louisiana Downs, well-traveled, Aqueduct, Penn National. But Business Model has run here 3 times in the past. Used to be with Brendan Walsh. Horse has been claimed a few times and switched around some different barns. But in 22, when he won the allowance race here at Keeneland, this horse was with Brendan Walsh back then, but has a classy win over the track, now in just for $16,000. I think Business Model will be the one to beat here over the course of 1 1/8. We don't get a lot of 1 1/8 races on the main track here for this kind of level of, lower level claiming horses. We've only had 9 of them, but favorites are 5 for 9 and 7 of the winners are 4 to 1 or less. Don't expect a big price in this particular race in race number 3. So Business Model, top choice in here for me. Papa Yo, top choice for Scott, for Tom, and for Gabby. And Kim and I both have the 3. So full house, 8s over 3s, the way it looks here amongst the bettors. Papa Yo, the 8, one that I didn't give a top 3 play to. This one's off since February. One of the reasons I did that, I went back and looked at those 9 furlong races. 1 1/8, which we mentioned, there's only 9 of them in the past or in the database that we have. Only 9 times have we gone to 1 1/8 in claiming company here on the dirt in the spring meets over the years. 7 of the winners had a March or April prep, so they were recently raced. So I tried to find horses that were more recently raced. That March 22nd for Business Model, so I leaned on that. Nicolau, the 7, has run a couple times. February 28th, March 15th has a recent race, including a win. So that's the reason I didn't go with Papa Yo. The negative here for that one is he hasn't raced since February the 1st. So he's a full month longer on the layoff. And you say, well, what's the difference in this day and age? Horses lay off all the time. But these are cheap horses. Claimers going 1 1/8, which is an extended distance. So typically claimers aren't the kind that you want off of layoffs to start with. And then going 1 1/8, you can kind of see a little common sense to that, why horses with more recent starts and more fitness have done okay at this class level. A classy horse can train up to 1 1/8 and maybe pull it off. A horse at a 16,000 level claiming, maybe not quite as much. So that's why I took a stand against Papa Yo in here. Although 3 of the handicappers have that one on top, it's because of that stat and trend line there, that 7 of the 9 winners of these 9 furlong races did have a race in March or April before they attempted this race here at Keeneland. So that's a look at race number 3. Let's move on here on the card for this Friday program. Again, first post coming up at 1 o'clock. Temperatures in the upper 40s on a crisp day. We should have a fast track, but some morning rain in the forecast. If you're just joining us, some overnight to morning rain possible up to 50%. So hopefully track conditions will be just fine here as we continue on the main track into race number 4. No new wagers starting off in this one, so let's get to the handicapper selectors box and see who everybody's got in this particular race. 5 handicappers, 4 different horses on top, a couple 9s, a 5, a 6, and an 8. I'm a bit on an island here with number 5, Pat's Chrome Compass. Pat's Chrome Compass picked 3rd by Tom, but we're the only ones mentioning that one in here. Greg Foley trains. Foley had a nice effort today, I believe it was, or was it yesterday? The days mishmashed together with me, but he had a nice winner here in recent days at Keeneland. Pat's Chrome Compass ran for 40,000 here during the fall meet and ran a decent race. Even Steven throughout, going 6.5 furlongs, and that one for 40,000 now drops in for 20,000. This is a non-winners of 2 lifetime. I like horses who have the best maiden wins on their resumes. Pat's Chrome Compass won for a maiden special weight at Ellis Park back in 2023. That stacks up really nice with the others in this particular race. So that's why I took the 5 on top. I think we'll get a fairly decent price on this one as I scroll through the morning lines here. I don't have them written on my past performances, but race number 4, Pat's Chrome Compass, 15-1. So we're getting a nice price on this one. Not one of my key plays because I don't have an overwhelming confident play and look to this one, but certainly in terms of prices, we're looking to hopefully pop a nice one in there. Horses making surface changes usually do fairly well in these races. For non-winners of 2 claimers going sprint distances at Keeneland, we've had 47 of them in the spring over the years. 27 of the 47 winners change surfaces from either turf or synthetic most recently. So that's what you get with the 5 Pat's Chrome Compass coming off the race at Turfway Park. Turfway Park horses have done better in these non-winner or 2 claimers than the other circuits. 16 wins from Turfway from the 47 offered. So about a third of them won by Turfway horses, 11 via Fairgrounds, and only 5 from Gulfstream. So Turfway horses have won as many as Fairgrounds and Gulfstream combined in these non-winners of 2 claiming sprints. I'll take the 5 in there, 15-1, Machado riding for Greg Foley. Also in here, give me the 9, Brooklyn Can Dance. This is another one who comes in from Turfway. Has a little bit of speed for sure and now adds blinkers. You expect this one to go to the front. The question is how far will this one run? Eric Foster's already had a decent winner in these kind of races in a spring meet 2 springs ago. He won with a horse that looked very similar to this one on paper and popped in there. And Brooklyn Can Dance won for 50,000 maiden claiming at Turfway. That stacks up pretty nice in this non-winners of 2. In terms of multi-race wagers, I'll go 5 and 9. The 3 Mustang Lady is the 3rd choice in here for me, but not a horse I would put on top in the multi-race wagers. 1 for 21 lifetime. Does have some second, third ability, to kind of close and get the bottom of the super, but I don't expect Mustang Lady to be a win contender in here. 5, 9 to 2 that I would take on top on this particular spot. Starcourt the 6 for Gabby is another one to keep a consideration of. Won a maiden special weight, but that was at Mahoning Valley. I'd rather have the 50,000 horses in Kentucky at Turfway than the maiden specials at Mahoning Valley, but certainly nothing wrong with the form. This horse has run, pretty good in 4 of the last 5 outings for Starcourt. So that's a look at race number 4. I think 2 deep in there is kind of the way to approach. 5 and 9 as the 2 best options in there for me. In terms of some also eligibles, you got a lot of Lisa would add a lot of speed. 13 would happen to draw into the field. And if the 14 Divine gets in, you definitely want to consider this horse. It is a huge class drop, and a horse has been off almost a year. Rudy Brisset had a nice win today, a horse that had a lot of back class, and Divine won a maiden special at Gulfstream, which would certainly be the best maiden win on paper. So if the 14 draws into race number 4, you'll definitely want to include that one. Kim's got that one in the top 3, but we'll need a scratch or 2 to get the 14 to draw into the race. Let's go to the 5th race now. And again, this is the most important race on the card probably because it's ending the early pick 5 and pick 4. It's starting that $211,000 carryover pick 6. And we start the Keeneland Turf pick 3 here. It's a mile and a 16th. It's a first level, entry level allowance. The 16 Al Jafara is one you definitely want to keep an eye on if that one happens to draw in off the also eligible list. This is a maiden winner from France back in September. First time Chad Brown in the States. Certainly looks like this horse can run a little bit. Bullet workout in March down at Payson Park. Al Jafara, the 16 one, is considered in race number 5 if drawing in. But I'm looking at this as a case where the one Ramsey Pond is the top choice in here for me. No matter what happens in here, Al Jafara, you would have to respect if the 16 gets in. But the one Ramsey Pond, one of my key plays of the day. This horse is coming off back-to-back efforts, beating 2 1/4 lengths at Gulfstream and 1 1/4 lengths, 1 3/4 lengths at Gulfstream by the filly Vixen. We already saw Vixen come back in the 3-year-old filly stakes this week on Tuesday in the Appalachian Stakes for Mark Casse and run a bang-up second. So from the Appalachian Stakes, and she's being competitive with that filly, Ramsey Pond, she should be able to handle first-level allowance contenders. I will say Saffie Joseph horses have not run to my expectations so far this meet. We get Jose Ortiz upon this one. You get the inside draw in here. The Ramseys drop in class. You know Ken Ramsey over the years. The Ramsey family wants to win races at Keeneland, and they're dropping a horse that maybe she should have run in the Appalachian Stakes. Now she goes here for the first level, entry level allowance. Maybe they're just trying to get a W and get a win here at the meet. So Ramsey Pond looks placed to score. That's kind of the way I feel the situation is, even if the Saffie horses haven't fired the way that I wanted them to so far this meet. The 5 Play with Fire, the other one for me to consider in here for sure. This one comes out of a very slow-paced race last time at Fairgrounds. Had no pace help at all. Play with Fire should get a little more pace help in here. Brendan Walsh's barn off to a good start. So my first key play of the day comes up here in race number 5. I love the one in here, Ramsey Pond. I'm using it over the 5 in here, Play with Fire. Tom and I have the exact same exacta. Play with Fire, top choice for Kim and also for Scott. So give me a 1-5 cold exact in this particular spot. And I'm going to single Ramsey Pond. I'm going to take my chances in here. Now, I will say if the 16 Al Jafara draws into the field, depending how many scratches there are, even if the horse is it's probably not going to get any better than the 11 or 12 hole. But if the 16 is in the race, I would use the 16 as well on some pick 6 tickets. But Ramsey Pond going to be the way I want to get things started off in race number 5 in the turf pick 3 and in the pick 6 with that $211,000 carryover. And you say, don't single the first leg, you'll be knocked out. It doesn't matter when you get beat in the pick 6, I mean, 5 out of 6 is going to pay 5 out of 6 no matter where you lose the 1. And 5 out of 6 is not going to pay the mega jackpot no matter where you lose the 1. So we had one at, where were we playing the other day? Santa Anita, I believe. We lost the first leg of the pick 6 and then hit the next 5 on a ticket playing with some folks that we work with, put a little fun ticket together at Santa Anita last weekend. And it makes no difference whether you lose the first leg or the last leg. So if you think the opinion is that a singles is right off the bat, then go ahead and single right off the bat. And that's kind of where I'm looking in race number 5. Let's go to the 6th on the card here as we hit the back half of this Friday program. Pick 5 starts here. The late pick 5 will include a couple stakes races, the Limestone and the Maker's Mark Mile. So race number 6, maiden claimers here going 7 furlongs, and there's not much speed in this race. You got 3 and 4-year-olds. The 3-year-olds have won a couple races already at the meet. There have been some kind of weak efforts amongst some of the older horses, and maybe we'll find that to be the case again. But this race looks like some of the 4-year-olds, I think, are probably the ones to beat in here and don't have as much poor form about them, but just haven't had that many chances to race. So in race number 6, I'm going with the 7 in here, Stirred Up. This is one that's picked 2nd by Scott, 3rd by Gabby, but I'm the only one with Stirred Up on top. Another one by Tappert. We talked about Tappert earlier. With the great record here at Keeneland coming into the meet, 5 for 14 in the winner's circle with Offspring of Tappert, $1.58 back for every dollar bet on the Tapperts. You're up 58% on your investment. First time Lasix for Stirred Up. I know the horse hasn't run since December of 2023. We've seen some long layoff type horses win already on the comeback here this week. Michael McCarthy, the trainer, he's got Bullard going in the Lexington Stakes on Saturday. He's got the Kentucky Derby favorite right now in journalism. He's got some big horses in the barn. Stirred Up kind of just been traveling here and has been in Kentucky for some time. This horse has been training over at the training track in Churchill Downs at the old Sports Spectrum since February. So he's been wintering in Kentucky. Stirred Up, I think this is a pretty good spot, maiden 50. I like this one. By Tappert, a good barn that I respect and trust. I expect Stirred Up to come back running. John Velasquez riding. That'll be my top pick in there. But certainly not singling a horse who's been off a year and a half going in here when we're talking about a pick 6. The 9, Princess Nye, is a 3-year-old against Elders, but comes off a good effort at Gulfstream last time. Set the pace that day over 7/8 of a mile. Back at 7 again. This is the filly by Nyquist. The Nyquist run really well, 20+% winner with a flat bet profit over the racetrack here at Keeneland the last 4 years. So I expect the 9 to handle the surface change from Gulfstream up here pretty well. Luis Saez named to ride Princess Nai. We hope to have Saez back. We'll give you more information tomorrow on all the changes to the program and see if we get Saez back. Others in this race to consider, the 4 Churning Bernie, but this is a horse who's 0 for 14 lifetime. But the trainer changed to David Jacobson. He can move one up quickly. Irad Ortiz rides. We talked about their percentage together last year, winning 3 or 4 at Keeneland. So even though the 4 is 0 for 14, I would give that 14-year-old a shot. Or that 4-year-old a shot, not 14-year-old. 4-year-old Churning Bernie. Give that one a shot in here in this particular spot because that's a big trainer change. Neil Pessin hasn't had a lot of success in recent years, just 5% barn. This is a big move up to David Jacobson. And then also keep an eye on number 5, Hope Restored. This is a Chris Hartman training. When Chris Hartman gets hot, look out. We'll see if he's got one here. Makes a big class drop from the maiden specialweight turf sprint debut in today for the claiming tag. She is a 3-year-old filly. That's maybe a minus taken on the elders, but she's by Army Mule, and this is another one. It has just an exceptional record with the horses at Keeneland over the main track in the last 4 years. So number 5, Hope Restored. 6th race is a definite spread for me in here. 7, 9, 4, and 5, all horses that I want to kind of get into my mix here as I'm handicapping and playing the multi-race wagers. Use a little bit of your budget here for sure, I think, in race number 6. Top choice off a year and a half. That ought to tell you that I think we'll need a little bit of coverage. As for the other handicappers in here, you got the 3 with a couple top picks. That's being Mink Stole, and that's not even one that I mentioned amongst the spread contenders in this particular spot. Mink Stole dropping out of the maiden specials from Turfway. John Ortiz trains now. This, breaking news, right? I mean, we talk about we handicap in advance for the consensus box. They do some print materials at Keeneland that we have to turn in the picks in early so that they can get those printed out. At the time of making those selections, we didn't know John Ortiz was going to pop with 2 nice winners today, including a huge bomber over $100 and another one that got bet hard and ran well. He did get defeated in the last race. He went 2 for 3 on the card. But if John Ortiz is going really good, the 3 Minks Stole. Gabby and Scott didn't know that when they were making the pick. They're riding a hotter hand than they knew, and I didn't use the horse at all, but maybe now we want to think about this filly who is 0 for 9. She's by Candy Ride. Of course, the Candy Rides have run well here at Keeneland for a long time, whether it was the Poly or the main track here. So race number 6, buy as much of it as you can afford to buy if you're playing the multi-race wagers. That's my advice in the 6th. Let's go to the 7th race on the card. This is our second key play of the day. It's the Limestone Stakes. Pick 4, the late pick 4 will begin in this race. And as we said, middle leg of the Keeneland Turf Pick 3. These are 3-year-old fillies, and they're running on the turf sprint distance, 5.5 furlongs. We haven't had the big 12-horse fields in the 5.5 furlong turf sprint. They've had the rail out, and we've only had 10-horse fields, and if scratches, even less than that to this point. But we've got a full field of 12 in here. Statistically, the power posts, if I've talked about so many times over the years, 3, 4, and 5 in these 12-horse turf sprints have just an unbelievable record in terms of producing winners and winners that pay well, like really well. So we've got some long shots in the 3, 4, 5 probably in here. Look at my buckle, the 3, Abiento, the 4, and It Ain't 2, the 5. I think you might want to consider using those horses in your multi-race bets. This is a very tough race. I think that the 9 Dream Away and the 12 Kilwin are the class of the field, but we haven't seen Dream Away since October. Kilwin's been away since the Breeders' Cup, and Kilwin's got a tough post position from out wide. I think those are the 2 best horses, and Kilwin is the one I went with on top in here. I think the 9 Dream Away is a major, major threat. You don't want to get beat by her, but you can start to get deep in this race too. This is another one where I think there are a lot of good potential options in here, and that's why I'm looking at this race as one of my key plays, because if we can get Kilwin in on top, I'm looking at tries and supers in this race. This race has been run 5 times since 2019 when it debuted, and 3 of the horses who won the last 3 years have been horses who haven't run since the previous year. They were all making their seasonal debuts. So I liked Keeneland a lot last year off his first 2 starts. I thought the horse had a big chance to run well in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, and she did, or Juvenile Turf Fillies. She ran well, took him basically to the 16th pole before giving in. She's back off a layoff, training well at Palm Meadows in Florida for Rusty Arnold. So I like Keeneland in this spot, and this is like one of those fish or cut bait kind of races, because I think you could, if you don't go with Keeneland, you can really open up, like I was saying, from a pick 6 standpoint or a pick 5, 12, 9, 11, 6. And then I want to use the 3, 4, 5 from those posts, those power posts. That's going to get extremely expensive to play in terms of a pick 6. So in a pick 6, I think you kind of go with Keeneland in here. To me, I think you make a gutsy single in here. But from an intra-race standpoint, I love the idea of taking Keeneland on top with a slew of runners, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, as many as you can kind of work in and weave in, like those power posts 3, 4, and 5. So give me 12 over to 3, 4, 5 with as many as you can afford. Maybe go all in that situation. 12 with 3, 4, 5 with all would be $30 for one, $15 play for 50 cents. That's the kind of play that I think could be very interesting in here. Get one of those power posts underneath, perhaps. But Keeneland's the top choice in here. Second most likely winner would be Dream Away for Wesley Ward. Ward's won this race already twice in 22 and 23. We did see Dream Away entered on Monday in a stakes and scratched to run in this particular race to go in the turf sprint. So Dream Away, certainly a contender in here, but give me Keeneland. That's my top choice in here and one of my key plays on the card. If we can get Keeneland in here, we've got a chance with some big prices underneath. Again, 9, 11, 6, 3, 4, 5. Those are the ones I'd want to put underneath in this difficult race. But if we can get the 9 on top or the 12 on top and use those other horses underneath, again, 12 over the 9, 11, 6, 3, 4, 5 is the way I would attack this race. The 7th, the Limestone. One of my key plays on the card. From a pick 6 standpoint, though, we might just have to be gutsy here and go with Keeneland. If you went too deep with Keeneland and Dream Away, I wouldn't really, talk you off of that. Keeneland's got plenty of early speed. Or Dream Away's got plenty of early speed. Keeneland would be a horse coming from a bit off the pace or farther off the pace for sure, especially from the outside draw. So 12 and 9 giving you kind of an early, late pace threat is a good way to go if you are going to go too deep in that pick 6. All right, let's move along here to the 8th race on the card. And race number 8's got my third and final key play on the program. This is a 7-furlong maiden special weight here, going a tough distance. I think you want horses with some experience in these races at 7 furlongs off the debut. We've had 35 of them in spring meets for these 3-year-olds running the maiden special 7 furlongs in spring meets. 35 of those races 35 races, 30 wins by horses that had some experience, 5 from first-time starters. So I would go against the first-time starters in here, even though they could be something special. The 1 Play with Magic, the 3 Surprise, the 4 Overcome Adversity. I mean, you've got some first-time starters right off the get. The first 2 I mentioned are both going to take a lot of money. The 1 Play with Magic's a Cherie DeVoe first-time starter. She's a filly by Mendelssohn out of Stage Magic. If Stage Magic sounds familiar, that was the dam of Triple Crown winner Justify back in 2018. So that makes Play with Magic a half-sister to Justify. Also a half-sister then to Stage Raider, who was a really talented runner as well. Cherie DeVoe was the trainer of Stage Raider. She's the trainer of Play with Magic, so she knows the family pretty well. I won't be surprised if the 1 Play with Magic can run a little bit. Now, Cherie DeVoe's had a tough meet. There's no question about that. She's 0 for the meet here going into day 6. She was such a good trainer last year. I think, 25, 26% wins, I think it was at Keeneland. 24 to 26 in that area off the top of my head. Last year at Keeneland for DeVoe, she was rocking between the spring and the fall meet. Her horses have underperformed. She's lost at least the first 11. I'm not sure what she had in today, but she's at least 0 for 11, 0 for 12 in that ballpark with some shorter priced horses. We'll see if Play with Magic, the sister to Justify, can get her on the beam. But I'm going against the inexperienced horses, and I want to get a horse who's got some experience to her. And I'm going with the filly in here, Girls Rock. And I think we've got a long shot play in here that I'm not the only one going with, because Tom, who likes to go for some long shots, Tom Leach, he's also on the 6 Girls Rock in here. So I kind of like that. I mean, I like being on the island, don't get me wrong, because I know that we're going to, preserve getting a big price that way. And it's kind of nice to be away from the entire public in that respect. Girls Rock is 15 to 1 in the morning line, but Tom is a very sharp long shot player. So when I agree with him on a long shot, that makes me feel a little bit better for sure. I've got this race 6, 2, and 3. The 2 Merceau is a second-time starter who debuted at Tampa Bay Downs, ran third behind a filly named Fondly. Fondly has already come back to win the Virginia Oaks since that race. So Merceau comes out of a very good race, the 2 in here. But the 6 Girls Rock, my top choice in here. Third place finish in the debut at Fairgrounds, beaten 10 lengths that day, but who beat her? Ahava beat her, won that race that day by a length and a half. Ahava came back and ran second in the Fairgrounds Oaks. And I reckon she's going to be maybe the second choice in the Kentucky Oaks, probably third choice behind the filly who beat her, Good Cheer, and then probably Tenma for Baffert in California will be the second choice. But there's a realistic chance that Ahava, the filly who beat number 3 Girls Rock, will be the third or fourth choice in the Kentucky Oaks. She's very, very talented. Ahava is sister to Vava, who's a really good one. So Girls Rock took on a good one the last time in the career debut. And the filly who ran second in that race that she was third behind, Unwavering Trust, we already saw that Brad Cox trainee come back earlier this week and romp in a maiden special weight. 6 Girls Rock coming out of a really good race, 15-1 in the morning line. Probably not going to get 15-1. I think we're going to get a shorter price than that, but this is a key play for me on the card, and I'd be happy with anything around 9-2, honestly. I don't need a massive price, but boy, I'll take 15 anytime you want to give it to me. There are some other options in here that people can bet in race number 8. Snow White, the 9, is a filly who ran second in the grade 1 for Zet. We haven't seen her since running in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. She's a good magic filly, of course, a daughter of a Bluegrass winner who gets good numbers with his offspring here on the track at Keeneland. Snow White could certainly be ready to go first time back. 7 furlongs for her for trainer Danny Gargan off the bench. It's a tough comeback distance for a filly who's been away since November. You like to see him either go 6 or maybe the 1/3 mile that has a little bit slower pace. Of course, we don't run the 1/3 miles at Keeneland, but 7 furlongs still has a pretty sharp pace about it and can be a tough spot for a filly who's trying to get her fitness back. So maybe Snow White's ready to go. Maybe Play with Magic, the Justify half-sister, is ready to go right off the bench. But I think this one is Girls Rock is one I really want to lean towards, and the 2 Merceau. I think those 2 are horses I feel really nice about in this particular spot. Brad Cox has got another one by Good Magic in here. The 3 Surprise is the first-time starter with a really strong workout tab down at Payson Park in Florida. Didn't run this one during the Gulfstream meet. I think they've kind of been saving for Keeneland, and that's a pretty good sign. $110,000 purse here. So LNJ and Cox have had some nice winners here at Keeneland debuting over the years. Don't be surprised if number 3 Surprise can run. 6, 2, 3, all logical players in this particular spot. In terms of the pick 6, I would kind of look at those 3 runners and maybe the 9 Snow White, but I would definitely focus in on 6, 2, and 3. And as you look across the way, Surprise gets top picked by Gabby and Kim. Tom and I are on Girls Rock, and Merceau, the other one that we're talking about considering, is a top pick by Scott. So if you kind of read across just the top lines, 2, 3, 6 seems like the way you want to get through safely to me, and I've got them down that way, 6, 2, 3. In terms of this race. So 3 deep, but I'm going in on Girls Rock as my top pick in here. So I'm going to do some exacta key boxes with my key play of the day. The 6 Girls Rock with the 2. And so we're going to box a 6-2 exacta, and then we'll also box 6-3. So if they run in any order, but the 6 gets in first or second, that's what we need. That's what a key box does. Then we'll be able to cash the exact in here. So exacta key box 6-2, exacta key box 6-3, the way I'm going to approach my third and final key play of the day. Let's go next to the 9th race. It's the Maker's Mark Mile. It is the feature race for the weekend here at Keeneland, along with the Jenny Wiley coming up on Saturday. So we got 2 grade 1 turf races coming up on back-to-back cards. Friday's feature, the Maker's Mark Mile, the Jenny Wiley on Saturday for the Distaffers. Maker's Mark Mile at a mile, as you would expect. Integration for Shug McGahee, one to watch in here coming out of the Pegasus World Cup turf. He was third in this race last year. Tom Leach, the voice of the Wildcats, caught up with Frankie Dettori, who rode Integration last time out in the Pegasus World Cup turf. Let's hear what Frankie's got to say about riding Integration in Friday's featured Maker's Mark Mile.
You rode Integration last time. What impressed you about his effort?
He's very solid. All his life he's been very solid. Always run, never knows how to run a bad race. Just got pipped on the line last time. Again, a tough race, but you know he wears his heart on his sleeve. You can always count on him to do his very best.
You rode him in this race last year. Is there any way you have to ride him differently, cutting back to a mile?
Well, last year was the first time I rode him. I think the ground was a bit soggy that day. Got beaten by 2 very good horses of Godolphin, so Even in defeat, it wasn't too bad. I got to know him a bit better now. He's a horse that he's got a long crescendo, so with a bit of luck, try to get him going with plenty of time, and we just need a bit of luck.
Keo Beach on.
Frankie Dettori, the jockey of Integration, as he mentioned last year, third behind the two Godolphin runners, Master of the Seas and Naval Power. Master of the Seas would be a solid favorite in this race this year, but the favorite this time around isn't going to be Integration. It should be Carl Spackler. Carl Spackler, the fall winner of the Keeneland Turf Mile during the Fall Stars weekend. He went wire to wire that day. He's not necessarily a speed horse. That was the first time he was put on the front. His regular rider, Tyler Gaffalione, of course, is out with an ankle injury for the course of the Keeneland meet. So Carl Spackler's first race back for the Breeders' Cup Mile for Chad Brown will be a pairing with Flavian Pratt. Pratt had 2 more wins on the card today. He's the leading jockey so far at the meet. So good, strong combination there with Carl Spackler. He's going to be a tough one in this spot as we look at the field of 9 for the Maker's Mark Mile. But I think it comes down to Carl Spackler and Integration. They seem like the 2 most likely winners in this particular spot. But there's a 4-year-old in here, Trickery, trained by Graham Motion, who we've seen here at Keeneland, didn't run well in the maiden special effort, and then came back in the Bryan Station the last time we saw this horse in the fall. Graham Motion's taking a shot with him. Tom Leach caught up with Graham earlier this week. Let's listen in.
Graham, let's talk about Trickery in the Maker's Mark Mile. First start of the year. How is he coming up to the race?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a race that I've been pointing for a while. We gave him a break. I felt like he'd earned a break at the end of last season, so we freshened him up at Fairhill and then got him down to Palm Meadows, where he's been breezing pretty regularly. So I'm pretty happy with him.
How has he improved from last year in what you've seen?
I mean, from what I've seen, he's settled down. I actually had Johnny come and work him one day, and he was surprised how much he's relaxed. So I hope that's a good thing.
What were the qualities that he showed you early that made you think he could be one of the special ones?
I mean, he's always breezed like a really good horse. He has this tremendous stride length on him. He covers so much ground. He's a gorgeous animal.
Let's talk about your runner in the Grade 1, Jenny Wiley, on Saturday. What are your thoughts on her chances?
All right, we'll jump out of that. We'll get back to the Jenny Wiley talk tomorrow. We'll use some of that sound as well when we talk about the Jenny Wiley on Saturday. But in terms of the Maker's Mark Mile and race number 9, here are the picks from the handicappers here at Keeneland. Scott Hazelton's going with Carl Spackler. Carl's also the top pick for Gabby and Kim. I'm taking Integration over Carl Spackler. Plenty of respect for these two. Carl Spackler making his first start of the year. That's not a big deal in this race historically. We've got 17 editions of the Maker's Mark Mile in our database at Keeneland.com. Run during the spring meet. 6 of the 17 winners were making their first start of the year. So not a problem with that. I think there's a decent amount of pace in this race. And I think there's a horse who can kind of get the job done in here, because this race hasn't been won often on the front end. Only 2 of the 17 winners were horses up top. 2 of them were dueling. So really, you're looking at 13 horses from mid-pack or farther back winning this race in the last 17 years. That's why I like Integration. I think he's going to sit back a little further. He certainly isn't a miler, right? The Maker's Mark Mile is the only time he's really run the mile last year. He's better at a little bit longer trip, but I think with some pace in here, he's got a chance to finish up well. Silent Heart's got some speed in here. The 8 Northern Invaders got some speed. Seminole Chief on the outside has some cheaper speed. So I think there's going to be enough pace in here to set it up. And of course, Carl Spackler will go to the front on occasion. Fantastic again, might be faster than all of them if sent. So I think there's pace in here. I think it sets up. I'm giving Integration and Frankie Dettori the last call in this particular spot, but plenty of respect for Carl Spackler. I would not get beat by Carl Spackler in the multi-race wagers. Pick 6 for me. This is a 2-deep situation. Carl a little more forward, Integration from the back of the pack, and I think you got him covered in this race. You're not talking about any great shakes, but I will be surprised if it's not one of those 2 winners. Tom does go with Trickery, though, after discussing the race a bit there with Graham Motion. So listen in tomorrow on Today at Keeneland, 11:30 a.m. Eastern, to get Tom's long shot play of the day and Scott and Gabby's thoughts and updates on the conditions at Keeneland going into Maker's Mark Mile Day. But I like Integration to win the main event. I'll use the 1 and the 6, though, in the multi-race wagers. We wrap things up in race number 10. It's the Toyota Super High Five race. Again, High Five hit today for a mere $95,000. No carryover going into the finale. Maiden Claimers going 1.1 1/8 in race number 10. I always say about Maiden Claimers going long on the main track is nobody wants to be here. They end up here, right? You don't start a horse out in a maiden claiming race. They kind of lose their way through the maiden specials and end up in Maiden Claimers. And you don't start a horse out at 1 1/16, 1 1/8. You usually run more brilliant and faster races with young horses. 5 furlongs, 6 furlongs, 6.5 in the debut. So if you're at 1 1/8 and you're in the maiden claiming ranks, you've just kind of ended up here. So this isn't the strongest cast in here. And these races, I think, can be won by horses up towards the front of the pack. The public's done a pretty good job. We've only had 9 of these maiden claiming races at 9 furlongs in past spring meets. Favorites are 5 for 9. 8 of 9 horses were 9-2 or less. 7 or 9 were 5-2 or less. So not looking for huge prices in this kind of race in here. I've got a horse, I believe, who's 3-1, 4-1 in the morning line. Number 4, Diver. We saw earlier this meet a horse named Shortstop win, going this 9 furlong maiden claiming distance. Was coming out of a 6.5 furlong sprint at Turfway, which is more brilliant than the others, and none of them wanted to run 9 furlongs, so nobody passed them. That's what I'm hoping the case is with Diver in here. That's going to be my top choice, but I'm not giddy about taking 4-1 on a horse stretching out from 6.5 to 1 1/8. The blinkers do go on for Byron Hughes. James Graham rides. I think the 4 is going to get an easy lead and take him as far as he can. How far will that be, though, off of those sprint races? We will find out, but I certainly would not be singling in this particular spot. Couple other options that you can use in here. The 10 Freedom Maker is a horse who's trained by Jonathan Thomas, who usually gets good long-distance turf horses. That's why this horse was long-distance turf throughout the career to this point. Dropped in at Santa Anita last time, ran a pretty good race. Doesn't have a lot of early speed about him, though, so we'll see if Freedom Maker can kind of stay in touch early. Did a little bit better job with that at Santa Anita last time. Thomas had a good Santa Anita winter meet with the horses he took out there. He'll have Luis Saez if Saez is back riding, so that's certainly a positive. The 1 Abundance for Todd Pletcher, big class drop here. This horse had a terrible post position on the turf last time. Has run 3 times and hasn't done anything particularly strong. They can't figure out what that this More Than Ready colt does. 7 furlongs on the dirt, 1 1/16 on the Tapeta, and 7.5 on the turf into 3 starts. But what they did figure out was maiden specials weren't working for him, so he's dropped in class here. Abundance, the 1 ridden by Irad Ortiz for Pletcher, probably a big underlay for what what the horse is really capable of doing. Buyer speed figures put this horse in the 60s, no different than Diver, and certainly has no early speed at all on any surface. So the 1 Abundance has been dropping way out of it. I think, at some point Diver should be 6-8 lengths in front of Abundance. Hopefully that would be enough to beat that one over the course of this 1 1/8. Also the 2 in here, Helm Place, second time starter, didn't show much in the debut, but that was in the race at Turfway, in which Final Gambit came out of that race, big rallying closer, to go on and win the Jeff Ruby and earn his way into the Kentucky Derby. So Helm Place comes out of a pretty nice race, obviously. Brendan Walsh was off to a good start at the meet. That horse did show a little bit of ability, going 2 turns the first time before really backing out of it and getting beat. Helm Place, second-time starter, might move forward a little bit here, gets the drop in class, and again, took on a tough hombre last time. 4, 10, 1, and 2, all horses I think to consider in here. Also, the 11 Task Force comes out of that same race against Final Gambit at Turfway that the 2 Helm Place does. Peter Urton trains. He's had 2 winners at the meet. That's pretty impressive. Would not be surprised if Task Force under Flavian Pratt. This is another one that might get overbet a little bit for the relative chances to win on the class drop and the connections. But I wouldn't want to be playing the pick 6 without the 11 in there either. 4, 10, 1, 2, and 11. More of a spread type situation for us. As we look at the pick 6. So if you're playing the pick 6 and you're following along with my thoughts, the 1 Ramsey Pond in race number 5, and maybe just cutting bait with the 12 Kilwin and going after it in race number 7 might be the way to attack this pick 6 in here. If you had to come up with another single, you look at Integration and Carl Spackler and try to figure out if you really prefer one to the other. I think the vast majority of people are going to prefer Carl Spackler to Integration at a mile. And I can't argue with that totally, but I think there is a good amount of pace in there, and I think Integration's sitting on a big race. And again, he ran well enough in this race last year, and Master of the Seas was just a much, much tougher hombre at that time than anybody, Carl Spackler included, I think, that's going in this year's edition. So if I had to take one of the 2 in the pick 6, I'd take integration, actually. And that will also get you outside the public a lot more, because I think most of this thing, the largest number of singles in this pick six sequence of the 6 races will be on Carl Spackler in the Maker's Mark Mile. That's going to wrap up our handicapping for the Friday program. Be sure to sign up for my Substack here. We'll get this information up for you. JeremyPlonk.substack.com. You get free information sent to your email inbox each morning. I'll update you with the updated selections for each and every race after scratches come out. Usually around 11:30 or so, we get the Substack out to everybody about an hour and a half before post time. You'll get my last-minute thoughts on the card and some handicapping information, not just Keeneland-oriented, from around the country and around the calendar after Keeneland's over as well. So if you want to get some Triple Crown information and handicapping stuff sent to you during the Derby, Preakness, and Belmont, be sure to sign up for the free Substack. JeremyPlonk.substack.com. All right, everybody, good luck tomorrow. We'll let you go with the $211,000 carryover in the pick 6. On behalf of everybody at Keeneland and myself, have a great night. We'll talk to you tomorrow.